Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video we're going to do a complete in-depth review of this 2022 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. Now this is the LE model, and I believe from a spec sheet perspective it's the exact same as a 2023 model. Now we've been doing a series here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals of all of the electrified vehicles, whether that's a fully electric from a Tesla or a Hyundai or a Nissan to a PHEV. There's a couple Toyotas in stock that are plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. Of course, I drive a PHEV Jeep Wrangler, and we're also going to include a hybrid model here to talk about all these things. Now the hybrid model is the most simple one. It's the only one you don't have to plug in. So if any of that sounds interesting, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And also, if you want to swing by Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, they have all of these vehicles in stock. You can compare them side by side with regular gasoline vehicles, with hybrids, plug-in hybrids, electric vehicles, all side by side. And Jim Gilbert's is committed to giving you a full range of vehicles to look at with one salesperson. Amazing service. They call it Canada's huggable car dealer for a reason. It's an amazing place to shop. So subscribe to this channel if you want to know more. Let's get going with this review. So I mentioned off the top that I drive a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and that has to be plugged in, but I also have driven a Toyota hybrid. Actually, I owned a 2007 Toyota Camry hybrid, which at the time was Motor Trend's Car of the Year. This is a big update from that car, but the thing with hybrids that you need to know is you never have to plug them in, but they're still electrically assisting you. So let's just briefly talk about how that works. You have a gas motor and an electric motor. They work together. Now, the electric motor can work on its own to power the car over short distances or over short trip or short sections of your trip, but it'll never power your car completely for very long distances. For that, you would need a plug-in hybrid or a full electric vehicle. What it does do is all of your inefficient driving is assisted by that electric motor, and that makes overall this vehicle very efficient. So even though this is a larger small crossover, it's almost like a mid-sized crossover, we'll show you the space inside in a little bit, you're still getting small car fuel efficiency, and especially in and around town, that's where you see the hybrid advantage over a gas vehicle being the greatest, because they really don't have a lot of variance between in-town mileage and highway mileage, which a gasoline car is much better efficiency on the highway, much worse in town. So a really great vehicle for all of your driving, but also especially if you do a lot of in town. Now there's a couple big advantages to having a hybrid. The way it works is when the gas engine runs, the battery charges. When you decelerate or when you brake, the battery charges. So there's a whole bunch of ways that the battery sort of charges on its own when the vehicle decides on its own. So you get in, you start it like a regular car, you put it in drive like a regular car, and it takes care of that for you. Now, in addition to efficiency, you also have some advantage in your brake life, because not all of your braking is done by the in-wheel friction disc brakes that you have in this car. Some of it is done by regenerative braking. So when you decelerate, the car will regenerate electricity, and that means in doing so, it'll slow down the car without using your wheel brakes. So that can have advantages to letting your brakes last longer. Now, one thing I should point out is hybrid cars in general are among the most reliable cars on the road. There's no real extra maintenance over a gasoline vehicle, so you have kind of all the benefits without a whole lot of downfalls. And there used to be some downfalls. We'll talk about that as we go through and how this vehicle has improved on that. The other thing to talk about is this LE model is an all-wheel drive vehicle. Now, this is the entry-level version for Toyota, but it's no way an entry-level vehicle. One thing that's interesting with the hybrid all-wheel drive is the all-wheel drive, or the rear-wheel drive on this, so this is a front-wheel drive vehicle, the extra power to the rear wheels is powered entirely by electric. Now that's different than the regular gasoline RAV4, which has a drive shaft back and it powers the rear wheels off the motor. Just about every vehicle in this class doesn't use all-wheel drive all the time. They tend to default to front-wheel drive on the highways or at certain speeds, usually above about 40 kilometers an hour. Most vehicles in the class are running primarily on front-wheel drive only. This vehicle is very similar. It's going to be running primarily front-wheel drive. It's always going to have some assist usually, or availability of assist. But instead of using the drivetrain to run back, you've got an electric motor running back, which makes it unique, but it also makes it very precise. And it's probably a great way to do things. It also gives you good interior space because you don't need a drive shaft running down the middle. So we're going to talk about all that and more and simplify this up in this review. Let's get going. In the past, one of the big compromises that hybrid vehicles had to make was trunk space. My 2007 Camry lost about a third of its trunk to a battery pack. But now the batteries are both more efficient, higher energy density, and just repackaging of vehicles, Toyota has figured out how to give you a massive trunk, so there's really no difference between something like this, a hybrid vehicle, and the gasoline vehicle. Let's take a closer look at the trunk here and show you what I'm talking about. So you can see here the trunk is very, very large. Now, like I said, my Toyota Camry, which was a sedan, used to have a battery pack in here, a very small pass-through, but this doesn't have to deal with all of that. And in fact, you still have underfloor storage with a spare tire in there. So there's a little bit of space around the spare tire, all kinds of space in this trunk. Now, this being the LE model, the one that sort of is the entry level for what this is, it doesn't have a cargo blind running across here, but on some competitor vehicles, when they don't have that cargo blind in the lower trim levels, the plastic is different and it won't accommodate that. You could get a cargo blind from Toyota's accessories if you wanted that here, and that makes some sense. I do have the seats set into two different positions here. There's a slight recline difference, so this one's a little bit more upright. We're gonna sit in that seat in a second. This one's a little more tilted back. So if you need a little bit more cargo space, you can do that, a little more tilted back. And this car overall is done very well for people who are sort of adventurous lifestyles. We'll point out some of those things as we go through this vehicle, but if you're going camping for the weekend, there is plenty of space in this trunk to fit just about everything you need. Taking a look at the side of the vehicle, we'll show you some of those adventurous things. You've got this plastic around the wheel well. Subaru does this a lot, and what does Subaru advertise? They advertise that this is an outdoorsy vehicle. So if you're going down gravel roads or you're going down sort of less than ideal conditions, you've got the wheel wells here that are going to shoot up gravel and rocks. They're going to be protected, or at least that paint will be protected there. Another nice thing is in winters in Canada, you have a lot of salt. So when you get out of a little bit taller vehicle, sometimes when you get out, you rub your pant leg along the edge of the door. Now this one, the full edge of the door there is fully protected by the door with a seal on the bottom, which means that if your pant legs touch the door opening or the door sill as you're getting out, you won't get them dirty because it wraps right around here. Again, plastic there in a high contact area for things like gravel and dirt shooting up, so it won't scratch the paint. The other nice thing for an outdoors adventure kind of person, you've got this really long roof rack. So low profile for efficiency, that's what matters to hybrids, but still a nice long area. So if you're sticking long ski box or canoe or kayak up there, you can really spread the bars nice and wide and take all kinds of extra gear up there as well, which is a really nice feature. Again, you don't have to buy a bigger vehicle to go camping. You can get a smaller, efficient vehicle, but you can fit that extra stuff up here on the roof rack. And it's not that high to get to. Certainly you can stand on the sills here and get in. So pretty good overall package right there. So we're gonna jump in the back seat now. You can see door handle is nice and easy to reach, but up nice and high like a typical crossover. Overall, the feeling here is of a lot of space. So we're just gonna kind of show you in here, and I'm gonna flip the camera around as I get in. A couple things I like, they have vents back here, even on this LE model, which again, LE is not traditionally Toyota's lower end. It's usually the luxury edition, but this is the entry level to this hybrid. So you still have some good features here, like the vents there, USB-C ports, 2 of them down there, and a pocket in that seat there. Let's show you what it looks like for me to sit in this seat right now. So here I am, a 6-footer in here, and it is spacious. Again, these small crossovers have kind of created some space for vehicles underneath it. So Toyota's got a couple lines of vehicles that are beneath this in size now, but this small crossover space has kind of stepped into the midsize, and you really feel it here with the RAV4. As you can see, I'm 6 feet tall, and the seat is in the upright position. I could tilt it back a little bit further, but yeah, headroom, space overall, very, very good. A couple of things I like, hybrid cars and some other cars with batteries around them don't always allow you to have your legs set up here. Sometimes you have to sit way up like this. So comfortable leg seating space here. The seat is a little lower than some other vehicles in its class, but because you have so much knee room, you can really spread your legs out here and get your legs flat on the seat. So very, very high scores here for overall comfort in the back seat. The only thing I don't like is the passenger seat has a pocket on the back. Driver's seat does not. Higher trim levels will give you heated rear seats. This one doesn't have it, but again, it's got cloth, not a big deal. Now we're gonna jump in the driver's seat, take a peek at what's in there, including look at some technology, some of the safety things, but before we get going, let me show you what the key looks like. Now most RAV4 hybrids are going to have a push button start. This one does not, so it has a key. Now the weird thing about a hybrid is sometimes when you turn the key, it doesn't always start the gas engine. So you will have to pay attention to the dash in here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This one probably will start because it's colder. It's been sitting outside in the very cold weather, but we'll talk about that in a second. First of all, I just want to point out large seats, good space in here as well. And let's jump in and we'll take a peek here. All right, so I am starting this vehicle with my left hand because my camera's on the right hand, so it's going to look a little awkward here. But again, you guys all know how a key works, so I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the dash. Let's just see if we can get it focused in there. There we go. All right, turning the key to the accessory on and full on start position. I got my foot on the brake. I turn the key. The gasoline engine did not start. Now it will start in a minute here. I'm going to keep the climate control off just for a second. Oh, it did start. So we will turn that off because we are filming indoors with other people around here. But I just want to show you that sometimes, especially in warmer weather, this vehicle will not always start. So let's just turn the car off for a second. And we're going to go back to the on position. So you're going to see the warning lights stay on. This is usually how I film inside when there's other people certainly in around. You don't want to gas everyone out. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, it's hard to film this. So let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. So not ready to drive, and that's because it's not on. So you've got a few things going on here. I want to talk about the overall safety features of this car. First of all, we used to think of safety features as crash safety. When this vehicle actually collides with something, you keep safe. And this vehicle has some things. It's got a knee airbag down here. Now, some people will brag, oh, it's got extra airbags, including a knee airbag. The reality is that a knee airbag is usually not necessary on most cars. They only put it in if you need it to pass the highest scores of safety. Toyota does that. It is what it is. It's not a big deal to have one or not have one. However, the bigger thing is, let's talk about collision avoidance. This vehicle has a system where it can avoid the things in front of you, which is typical for the class. Usually the lower trim levels, they look for vehicles in front of you, and it has what's called an assisted braking of some sort. So emergency braking assist of some sort. Everybody's got their own brand names for it, where the vehicle is capable of stopping to avoid a collision. Now, most vehicles at the entry level will only look for other vehicles. This one is also looking for pedestrians, also looking for bicycles. A lot of vehicles have a similar system, but you have to move up the trim lines to get that. Same with the ability to sort of self-steer. This has a lane tracing. Other vehicles call it lane keeping. There's various ways of talking about a vehicle that essentially sees the lane markers in the road and can help actively steer to keep it centered in the lane. Now, this vehicle has that at this trim level, which again is not something that's usually very typical. The other thing you're going to notice is the light doesn't come in perfectly, but fairly clear white halogen headlights. Now, Toyota has sort of 2 to 3 levels of LED headlights. These are the entry-level ones, which, as you can see, have a nice sharp cutoff. And the big thing with LED headlights, in addition to just being bright, being, like lasting longer than a regular headlight bulb, is the white color. Now, again, it doesn't look white here on camera. It looks a little more yellowy than it does in person, but that white color is closer to daylight color. And the thing I like about it is it helps your eyes easily identify what you're seeing. So you can identify, a pile of dirty snow on the side of the road, or wait, that's a rodent or an animal or something like that you don't want to run over. So lots of things there, automatic high beams and other things. Another little feature that they've got here, let's just see if I can zoom into this section right here. There we go. This little button right there is a windshield defroster. It doesn't defrost the entire windshield, but again, as an outdoorsy kind of person's car, where the windshield wipers sit, it is able to give a little extra heat there to defrost them to keep them from freezing. So overall in here, let's just take a look at that dash again. You've got very typical stuff for a hybrid, plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle. You can see here there's a large eco section. This functions sort of like a tachometer will, but you'll see it replaces engine speed with overall efficiency, and it tells you what your hybrid system is doing. So if you drive economically, it's going to keep it in that green. That's when your hybrid is working really well to give you pure electric power for short stretches whenever it can, or certainly using a lot of electric assist. When you need full power in this car, it's going to run the gasoline engine at, for instance, full power, and the electric motor at full power. That makes about 200 plus, oh, I forgot the spec. I believe it's 217 horsepower. I'll let you know on the screen if I'm incorrect or correct here. But it has quite a bit of horsepower, and electric motors have instant torque. So you have a nice sort of smooth ongoing power brought in. And again, when you stay in that eco zone, you're going to find you get pretty good mileage. When you need the power, you're able to combine the gasoline and the electric motor for power. Now, when you decelerate or brake, this needle is going to drop into that blue zone. Normally, it's going to start right on that line right there, but it's going to drop into this blue zone as you're decelerating or braking, and that's adding a significant amount of charge to, well, I say significant, it's adding charge to the battery to allow it to run with electric assist whenever it needs to. Now, a couple other little things I want to point out here is having trouble focusing on this digital screen. So that EV and that Eco button, one of the things Toyota hybrids do is they allow you to move in EV mode. So I should say EV mode. EV is purely electric, but it will not run as a long-term pure electric car. So a lot of us who used to have hybrids before Toyota added that button in the car, which adds that feature there, what we used to find was that they used to start when we'd pull out of the garage or something like that on a cold day like this. So we have the ability to hit this EV mode button and back it out of the garage, do a very, very short move around a parking lot without running the gasoline engine, which is kind of nice instead of starting a cold engine for a short trip. Very short trips, like a couple 100 meters or less, can usually be done in this EV mode. You also have a trail mode here. Again, we're talking about this as an outdoorsy kind of vehicle. This one has a trail mode. Now, this has one function that I think works well for outdoors, but I wish it wasn't so good. This has a urethane-ish, rubbery type feel steering wheel. It is not heated. Every other trim above this has a heated steering wheel. I like heated steering wheels better, but these are also good because they're really durable. If you get things dirty or, you know, it's harder to scratch up with like a ring or anything that's on your hands that's dirty. So again, if you're an outdoorsy person, hey, this is easy to clean, hard to mess up. But if you're an outdoorsy person in the winter, no heated steering wheel over here. You do, of course, have heated seats, which we'll talk about right here, high and low. And of course, those are buttons that stay in place. So if you, in fact, I'm just gonna leave that on. If you are in a vehicle like this and it's in the winter, you can leave those heated seats on. So as soon as you start the vehicle, it will come back and turn on. Automatic climate control. Now, climate control is usually tied to the hybrid system. What I like about this is it's a dual zone system, so passenger and driver can be different temperatures if they want. And when I say it's tied to the system, if you want a hyper mile, that means like eke every bit of mileage out of this thing, sometimes you can turn off the climate system and that will keep the engine from running in the winter. Now, I don't recommend doing this, but it just shows how you can kind of game that system a little bit. The hybrid components always have an automatic climate control because if it automatically brings you to that temperature, it's going to help save you some fuel. If you have the fan running on your own, so of course you can override all this stuff. If I turn the fan up, you can see the auto turned off. On a hybrid vehicle, what you want to try to do is leave it in auto as much as possible because that does make this work with your drive system to help you get great fuel mileage. Let's show you some of the controls on the steering wheels we come across here. We'll start on the left side, mostly your audio controls, some dash stuff in here as well, so you can cycle through the menu on this screen. We won't show you that in this video just because I'm having trouble focusing on there, but there are some nice features in there. Some of it just shows your hybrid, how your hybrid system is working. Other it shows sort of various drive modes and other things. But then again, you've got your system here to just control mostly your audio, your phone. Coming across here, you've got your cruise control. Now this one has what they call smart cruise controls or intelligent cruise control, whatever Toyota calls it, but that is the cruise control that can keep the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. It's part of the safety features, it's part of that system. So very, very good safety systems in this quote base level hybrid. Again, another nice thing that's not really so base level is, although this is a plastic, not a leather, it kind of has a leather look, and it is a very soft touch, almost a rubbery touch. You can kind of, you know, dent into it. So everywhere you feel in this car is a very nice feeling. Down here, there is a little indent there, great for your passenger to hold their phone or other type of things. And down here, there is a USB port here. Now that's the only traditional old-fashioned style USB port. I don't know if we can zoom in there. Let's see if we can get it. Yeah, sort of the regular USB port. Every other USB port, there's two in the armrest underneath between the driver and passenger seat, and there's two in the back. Every other one other than the one you're looking at is a USB-C. The smaller ones, typical iPhones come with that now. So you have a traditional USB, and then every other one is a USB-C, and then you have a 12-volt port here as well. No wireless charging on this model, which I don't think is the end of the world. I think that works just fine. Let's go fully wide angle for a second. You can kind of get a sense of how it looks in here. We should talk about this 7-inch screen here. Now, one of the things Toyota does that I don't love is they have this map button here. Navigation app is not installed, right? So you don't really have navigation even though that button is there, which is one of those things that kind of bothers me a little bit. You do have a great or decent audio system. It's not the upgraded audio system, but it works quite well. So you have AM, FM. Let's just make sure we've got the sources here. AM, FM, and then Bluetooth. So you do not have satellite on this car, but you can get that in the higher trims. Overall, you know, pretty basic system, works pretty well. If I throw the car into reverse, let's see if it'll let me do that. There we go. Very clear backup camera. Now it says hybrid system is stopped. It's very angry at me because I didn't start the car. But again, very clear backup camera here. And what I like is you can go really, really wide angle. So it's hard to show, but it goes really wide angle here as well. So you have some options there. Put that car back in park for a second here. So overall, really nice options inside. Let me just flip the camera around and just show you the space here as well. So again, as a 6-footer sitting here, I have tons of space. Now the seat can move up a little bit. I've got good visibility outside the car. A couple things I like here, which we can try to show here. The mirrors are not mounted to the car. Let's see if I can get in there. There we go. So they're not mounted, sorry, to the window like a lot of other cars. So you have this little extra window out here. Now it's hard to show here on the difference it makes on camera, but I can tell you from a visibility perspective out front here, you do feel like you have great visibility in this vehicle, which I think matters. A couple other things up top here. You've got the lights up here, so you can turn on various lights and the door lights. You do have a sunglasses holder as well, which is nice to have. Not every car has that anymore. If I can see, well, let's just use this one here. Right there, you've got the little visors that when you flip them down, they have the little sunshades in there, so you can use that both, oh boy, you can use that both behind the mirror and if you flip it to the side here to get extra coverage. So good systems there, good safety systems. Again, what I love about this car is you get in, you drive it like a regular car. You don't have to learn anything. You will notice that sometimes the gas engine isn't running, but as long as it says you're good to drive, you just keep driving it like a normal car. Just drive normally and it'll save you fuel. Now, the one thing with hybrids is a couple tweaks to your driving style. If you drive a little bit more efficiently, like just a little bit more efficiently, then the hybrid system rewards you much more than a gasoline car. So something to keep in mind, if you just kind of lift off that throttle and bring a little extra hybrid system in there when you get up to speed, that can help you get a little bit, more mileage again. So hybrids are very easy to slightly improve your driving style and greatly improve your mileage, and that's something that you can do to kind of game the system. But if you don't want to game the system, you just want to drive around and save fuel, these do that just fine. So really nice car here. Let's finish up with one final thought. So let's talk about who this vehicle is for. Well, Toyota understands this. Hybrids are for everyone. Because there's no learning curve to jump in, or very, very small learning curve to jump in and drive, these make a lot of sense. And if it were me, although hybrids do cost a little bit more than the non-hybrid, I would rather go with this LE model that gives me a hybrid than add a few extra luxury options to the regular gasoline vehicle. I think this has all the options you need, other than maybe that heated steering wheel. It gives you great safety, a lot of comfort, good LED headlights, and that all-wheel drive system that makes this car really good in all weather. So this is a car that you can use for all conditions. You can take it camping, do your travel. You've got all kinds of space in the back for all the gear that you need, and good space for seating. It's just a car that makes a lot of sense. You don't have some of those compromises that you used to have to make with hybrids in this vehicle. It's a great overall vehicle. So make sure you swing down to Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals to compare gasoline cars versus hybrid cars versus plug-in hybrid cars versus fully electric cars, all side by side here on the lot. And if you want to know more about those vehicles, make sure you let me know in the comments, and I'll answer those questions both in the comments and in future videos. Thanks everybody for watching.